in view of God's mercy. Now that's the way to live, in view of God's mercy. You and I today, we are where we are today because of His mercy. He says, because of what Jesus did for you and for me, because of the cross, because of His sacrifice, we now offer, as a result, our bodies as living sacrifices, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. So worship is not just being in church. Worship is when you go home. Worship is when you are in the office. Worship is when you're in the campus. Worship is how you treat your wife or your children. It's how you work in the office. It's how you dispense of allocations. It's how you talk to people or talk to the driver or the maid or the helper, or you talk to the people who are your subordinates and just people that you interact with every day. This is worship. He says you offer your body as a living sacrifice. Because He's King. He deserves our worship. This includes our lives. Now, we came across an article this week about a man in an automotive article. And he talked about why we stopped hiring models for car shows. And this is what he had to say. He was asked to write the article. He says, I've been asked to write about my marketing experience with car shows, specifically about why we don't hire booth babes anymore. That's how he called it. Or I guess it's how it's called. I've gone to international car shows and seen displays overseas, and most of them almost always include a few gorgeous female models standing at the forefront to attract visitors. I surmise that companies do this to literally stop traffic. With so many show attendees, you have to have something special at your booth for people to give you a second look. Now, we also used to do this ourselves, and we attract a lot of people to the point that nearby exhibitors got upset because people would turn their backs on the other displays as they took pictures of our show models. We spent a lot on these models and got a lot of attention in return back when social media did not exist. And then he said, then one day it hit me as I interviewed a couple of our models and I asked them why they did what they did. They said it was because they needed the money and had no choice but to capitalize on their looks. Then I found out that a lot of them came from marginalized backgrounds and broken homes, and that they often had to support loved ones. Some used the opportunity as a stepping stone to get into a serious modeling or acting career. To be clear, there's nothing wrong with making a living for these young women. But as I thought about it some more, I was moved when a voice inside me asked, Sam, as life is uncertain and business can rise and fall, what if one day in the future your daughter or granddaughter ends up in this lifestyle? Would you, as a father or grandfather, approve of men of all ages ogling them and putting arms around them, asking them out? The answer was an obvious no. The parable of sowing and reaping came to mind. And so that was my personal conviction. It was a personal conviction. Okay. And soon after, we stopped hiring models and focused on car displays instead. So what were the direct results of this decision? Did we have fewer people at our booth? Yes. Did we have less distraction among our male staff? Yes. Did we get less popular? No. Did our sales numbers drop? Interestingly enough, no. And a couple more questions. Are companies who use gorgeous models guaranteed financial success? No. Will my God and the women in my family approve of our no model business policy? Yes. That was the more important question. That his question for himself was not the numbers, the bottom line. Will this please the Lord? And that's a good question to ask ourselves when we're making a decision. Will this decision please God? The way we conduct our business, will it please and glorify God? The way we work, will it please God? Our life is worship unto Him. Galatians chapter 1, some of the men in church were going through this book right now. And in verse 10, it talked about, for am I now seeking the approval of man or of God? Or am I trying to please man? If I were still trying to please man, I would not be a servant of Christ. If I call myself a servant of Christ, then it's not man's pleasure, but it's God's pleasure I seek. That I'm after not the applause of men, but the applause of heaven. That God is my main